Alright, so today's lesson's on lines and angles cut by a transversal. And the transversal is the line that goes across the other lines. And it can go across more than two lines. But the key here is we want to be able to identify the angles based on their position on the lines that they're cutting across versus which side the transversal they're on. Are they on the interior or the exterior? Are they on one side of the transversal or the other? Or maybe they're in that top left position like we talked about before. So, let's first of all use our colored pencils to kind of help us to identify some of these angles on our picture, so when we come back and study it, we can say, okay, I see 2 and 3, I see where they are, and this is why they're named what they're named. Now again, you can do these in different colors, and if we run out of colors, then we might not do the last ones in colors. But at least there's some light blues, dark blues, different colors of red, different colors of green. I would probably not use the different colors of red unless you absolutely have to, because they are closer. Alright, so in number 1, we're going to do angles of 2 and 3. So first thing I'm going to do in my picture is I'm going to mark angle 2 and I'm going to mark angle 3 in the same color. And then I'm going to put a dot of that color over here so that I know when I come back to look at this again, how did what I marked on the picture relate to which question I was talking about, since my questions are going to mark a lot of different angles on here. Now, angle 2 and 3. Are they on the same side or are they on the alternating sides of the transversal? Same side. They're both on the right. Are they on the interior or on the exterior? Alright, so what is the name of this angle? Pair? Consecutive. Interior angles. Consecutive interior angles, because it's based on where they're located around the transversal. Now we're going to switch colors, and we're going to go to angle 8 and angle 6 and mark them in a different color. And make sure every time you mark your angles that you go back over here next to the question and put a dot of color next to your question so you'll remember which ones go with which. So now, based on the position, are they on the same side or are they on the opposite sides? Same side of the transversal. Are they interior or exterior? Both. That's a really good clue that it can't be a name that has interior or exterior with it. So this is the top left position of that intersection, and this is the top left position of that intersection. And so because they're in the same position around the intersection on each one, they're both top left. Does anybody remember the name of that angle from yesterday? Yes, it is. It's corresponding. Yep. Alright, so corresponding angles are the pair of angles that are in the same position. They'll either both be on the left or they'll both be on the right, but they're not both inside or both outside. You'll have one of each. And that's when you want to go side. If do I have top left, top right, bottom right. That gives it away because that's the position it's in, and that's what corresponding is all about. It corresponds to the same position. Alright, we're going to switch colors. And we're going to do angle 4 and 6. Now 6 already has a mark in it, and that's why we're using different colors so that we can mark it for 6 and 4 and see that those are the two colors I want to go with. So 6 and 4 are here. Are they on the same side or alternating sides of the transversal? Alright. Are they both interior or both exterior? It's both, isn't it? Well, then that means that if I have one outside, one inside, I can't use the names that talk about interior, exterior. So that does away with alternating and consecutive. But look where they are. They're across from each other. What do we call that kind? We studied that already. Vertical. So put a dotted color next to number 3 and write vertical angles. So that's one we already knew from the previous lesson, and we get to continue to work with that one even after this particular lesson. We'll just keep finding vertical angles comes back a lot. All right, so in number 4, we are looking for angle 1 and angle 2. Well, yeah, I used to have a lot, but they redid something with my computer, and now I don't have as many. Yeah, I'm going to change that one. Yeah, let's do that. Come on. Oh, let me get rid of this part first. I don't think it likes that that's open. Come on. There's supposed to be a way to do it right along here. Oh, there it is. I feel we're going to make this one light green. And, well, it didn't take it. Oh, let's try that again. Light green. Oh, safe. And we'll make this one orange. All right, that at least gives me a couple more colors. All right, so don't want that. So we're doing angle 1 and angle 2. So what do you notice about angle 1 and angle 2? They equal 180. What's the name of the angles that we've studied that equal 180? All right. Could I say linear pair if I wanted to? I could. But we tend to think of that as supplementary, since linear pairs are supplementary. So supplementary angles. All right. I think I'm going to change that color to this one. So now we are ready for number 5, which is angles 7 and 3. So I wish it would quit thinking I want to write on the board with the typing. So there is 3 and 7. Are they on the same side of the transversal, or are they on the opposite sides? All right. So that sounds like it might be alternating. Are they interior or exterior or both? They're both interior. They're both between the lines. They're between this line M and this line N. So they're inside the two lines, but they're alternating on each side of it, the transversal. That makes it alternate interior angles. And we can abbreviate that if you'd like to save a little space. Alternate interior angles. So when they're between the two lines that the transversal is crossing, or they're outside the two lines of the transversal is crossing, you can use the word interior, exterior.
How do you know that number 4 is supplementary? Is it
because
each other?
They're adjacent angles on a straight line angle.
So they're the same line.
Yeah. It's more because they're a linear pair than it is because it's supplementary. It's because they're side by side on the line.
That's what I was.
Yeah, but the definition of supplementary says they add up to 180, and if they're on a straight line, they're going to add up to 180. All right, y'all do the last two yourself. See what you can get. Alright, so now that you've tried those two questions, let's see if you're on the right track. And I'm just going to use black this time, I guess. 1 and 5. Here's 1, here's 5. Are they on the same side of the transversal or alternating? Interior, exterior, or both? Exterior. Because one's below this line and one's above this line. Interior has to be in here. Has to be between the two lines, even if they're not parallel. So that makes that what? Alternate exterior angles. All right. And then to do angle 5 and angle 8, are they on the same side or alternating sides? Are they interior or exterior? So then is this consecutive exterior angles because they're on the same side? It also can be called same side exterior as well. That's another name for it. All right. So here on this picture, it asks you to identify all the pairs of the angles in the figure that you can find and name the two lines and the transversal that formed each pair. So let's go through and maybe do a little bit of this together, and then I'll let y'all do the rest. You can't do as many pairs as you would like because every number is not, every angle is not numbered. Does everybody see that? So as you go through, what you should do is you should look for everything in relation maybe to the fact that A is cutting the two lines, and then if you can't find one doing that, maybe go back and look, B's cutting the two lines and is the transversal, and see if you can find it that way. And then if you still can't find it, then you can turn the picture and let D be the transversal and let E be the transversal, because there's a lot of lines in this picture. But the one line in this picture that will never be the transversal of anything is what? Well, I take that back. It might be. Let me think about that. No, I don't think it'll work with that one. I don't think C is going to do much transversal work for us. But it might. We'll have to see. But I think we should focus on A and B first. For example, if you're wanting to look for corresponding angles, I've got to look for an angle that's in the positions that are the same. For example, 8's in the top left. Everybody agree with that? Is there one in the top left here? 7's in the bottom right. Is there one in the bottom right here? No. No. All right, so let's move over to the next transversal. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. I can't use the one that's been split, so I have to look at this one. 6 is in the bottom left. Is there anything in the bottom left down here? No. So far, I haven't found a corresponding one off of the B or the A. But what if I take my picture and turn it? Let's try it from that perspective. All right, let's let the line that is E here be doing our cutting. Here's 5 in the bottom left corner. I can't use these two. They're both in the, been split. So there's not one there, and there aren't any other ones on that one. Here's 8 in the top right. Is there something in the top right on this one? Here's 7 in the bottom left. Is there something in the bottom left? So I went around and looked for corresponding, and I only found one set of corresponding angles. That angle 6 and 7 are if which lines is 6 and 7 touching? Okay. So angle 7 is touching D and A, and angle 6 is touching B and D. So it looks like to me that B, D, and A are the three lines doing the work. Does everybody see that? Which one's the transversal? D. So if lines A and B are cut by transversal line D, you said, right? So if lines A and B are cut by the transversal line D, then those two angles are corresponding. So there are lots of lines in this picture. There are lots of angles in this picture. The problem is not every one of these is going to have a lot of answers because I didn't number everything. So now, that's kind of what I want y'all to do. I want you to go through and I want you to see if you can find any alternate interior angles. Now, let me turn my picture back so you can see it better.
Wait, what does that say again? Right there?
If lines A and B are cut by a transversal line D. So go through each one of these names of these angles and see if you can find a pair of the angles that matches up to that. And sometimes there might be two answers. And maybe everybody in here finding not the same answer will help us to find all of them. So if you could just find one more answer that fits these, that'd be great. Then we'll compare and see if we can find what all you found. But the key here is that, I don't know why there's a 1 stuck right there. Okay. Let me get rid of that. So first I would look at D and E are going across and see if you can work with A. Then work with D and E and B. And then turn the picture. And if we don't find anything, move to the next one. And if we get done, we don't find as much as we need, we might go back and look at C at the end. Because C is kind of a different line. It's kind of cutting the picture a little differently. But focus on the ones that are more parallel for the moment and see how many of these you can find at least one pair and tell me what lines is it attached to. Okay, I'm going to stop the video long enough for y'all to try that so we're not running out of time. Alright, so if I turn my picture, I can find other angles. For example, I can talk about these two parallel lines being cut by this transversal. Now, if I look at this, angle 5 is a whole angle, but 1 and 2 are not, so I'm not going to get anything from that one. Because I need one that has whole angles, not a lot of split angles. But if I take this transversal, now we've already talked about how we can't talk about 8 and 7, but I'm going to mark them because they're whole angles on that transversal. And I have the 6 down here, it's a whole angle, but I can't use 3 and 4 because that's 2 angles in this corner. So now if I take my picture away, which two match up to these names and which name does it match up to? Oh, the more than one answer actually. That is a choice. That is one correct answer. Let's see. All right. First of all, which angles here were you talking about being the alternating exterior? And 8? 8 and 6. Okay, let's do that one first. So alternating exterior angles is angle 6 and angle 8 because they're on different sides of the blue line, but yet they're outside the two green lines. And so they're that if lines A and B are cut by the transversal, I'll just abbreviate that, line, this line, D. So now let's go back and look at the same thing again. So we compared 8 and 6. We've compared 8 and 7 are vertical. So we got to look for something that we're comparing. So we're looking for another relationship. So if I've already compared 8 to 6 and I've already thought 8 and 7 are vertical, what's the only other comparison I could do?
6, 7.
Okay, let's look at 6 and 7. What side of the transversal are they on? Same side or alternating? Alright. Are they both interior, exterior, or both? Well, then that makes it bottom left. Which makes it which one of these? The one I've already done, right? So have I exhausted all the possibilities on that line? Okay. So now it's time for us to go back and look at that line that has the C on it, because it has smaller angles attached to it. So two parallel lines cut by this transversal. Now if you look at it from that perspective, the 1 and the 2 are on that transversal. The 3 and the 4 are on that transversal. And the 6 is on that transversal. And we have a problem. See how this one is split? Everybody see that? So we can't use those. Because you don't want an angle in the corner that's been split into two angles. You want one that's a whole angle. So now, let me pull this picture out. Two parallel lines cut by a transversal. If I can't use the 4 and the 6, then obviously I got to find a relationship between the 1, 2, and the 3. Where do you think I should go? 2 and the 3, all right. What kind of angles are 2 and 3? All right, alternate interior angles, and that is because line D and E are cut by the transversal C. Anything else? I mean, I compared 1, 2, and 3. Can I compare 1 to anything?
1 and 3.
1 and 3 are what kind?
Same side interior.
Same side interior angles, because they are on the left side of the transversal between the two lines. So D and E cut by the transversal C made those angles as well. Now I could talk about 1 and 2 being supplementary, but is that on my list? No. So sometimes there'll be relationships on your list. Yeah, I mean in the picture that are not on the list that they're asking about.
1 and 3 supplementary.
1 and 3 are supplementary. Not because they're positioned to be supplementary, but because that's what same side interior and exterior angles are. And I didn't find one for consecutive exterior angles so far, so let me go back and see if I need to turn the picture a different way. Because it's possible it just doesn't have one. Did anybody think it did?
I didn't spot one.
There's no other thing. Oh.
No, I don't believe there is one. I don't think there's one that's on the same side and being on the exterior. I think we've got a lot of angles that are on the exterior, but just they're not on the same side. They're alternating. All right. So that's a little tough when you start looking at a picture with that many angles, and that's why you want to break it up and look at smaller pieces of it. All right. So on this page, each picture has angles numbered by colors. So when you draw these on your paper, do the colors, because it'll help you. And you're supposed to just draw the picture, and then underneath it, write angle 1 and angle 2 and what name it is. Or angle 3 and angle 4 and what name it is. So I'm going to let y'all practice on this to see if you've got how to pick these positions out. And you have 3 questions to do here, and see what you can do with choosing the appropriate name for the pair of angles that are the same color on each picture. And the names of the angles are up here at the top. They use same side interior and exterior instead of consecutive, but that's okay because they use those interchangeably, so you need to be aware of that. So you have your choices at the top, and you want to draw the picture, label it with the colors, but you don't have to do for the ones that are in black. If you want to put them a different color, you can put them a different color, but at least keep the ones that are red, red, and the ones that are blue, blue. Alright, so we're supposed to be naming these angles either alternate interior, same side interior, corresponding, alternate exterior, or same side exterior. So when you look at angle 1 and angle 2, what did y'all choose for the name?
Yeah, I said corresponding.
Corresponding, because this is the bottom, it's bottom right, and this is the bottom right of my picture. Get my marker to work here. So that's really important to recognize. So corresponding. All right, 3 and 4. What did y'all choose for the answer?
I set up exterior.
Okay, let's look at that. First of all, here's your transversal. Are they alternating?
Yes.
All right. Are they exterior?
No.
They're between the two parallel lines, so they're alternate interior angles. It's easy to do that sometimes. All right, then on the next one with 5 and 6, what do you think about those two? They're not both inside, they're not both outside. Does that give it away? It's the only thing it can be, because you've got them on the same side and one's inside and one's outside. So another corresponding. Okay, over here on our next picture, 1 and 2 are both on the same side. So are they exterior or interior? All right, so same side interior. Then 5 and 6, there's one inside and one outside on the same side of the transversal. So since it's a mixture of inside and outside, it has to be corresponding. In this case, because they're both in the bottom left position. But be careful with that thought, because vertical angles are also outside and inside, and they alternate, but still they have those weird situations where it seems like it starts off half of it works, but then the other half don't match up to any of the names. So that's a pretty good clue for corresponding and vertical, is you got a mixture. I can't be same side and one of each, inside and outside, right? And then for 3 and 4, well, that looks like the same thing. Corresponding, because it's the top left on both. So down here at the bottom, you have to be very careful on the lines that you focus on. For example, 1 and 2 are on these bottom 2 lines. They're on the same side and they're one of each, interior and exterior, so that must be corresponding again. But 5 and 6 are between these 2 parallel lines, so ignore the line in the middle. Are they alternating? Are they interior or exterior? Interior. So those are alternate interior angles. And then 4 and 3 are both on the top 2 lines. They're on the same side of the transversal or alternating? Same side. Are they exterior or interior? So same side interior would be the name of that one. How we feel about this vocabulary? So when I give a vocabulary quiz on this type of material, I can throw any angle names I want on here. For example, I could say 3 and 5. What would they be on this picture? Supplementary. I could throw in there, let me find one that fits that. I don't know if I got one that fits it. Oh, this one does. 1 and 5 in this picture are what? Vertical. So with your vocabulary, we're still pulling back in those words that we had earlier. We're just adding these new words to it for pairs of angles. And so one of the things for the next vocabulary quiz that you're going to have is you're going to have not quite as complicated a picture. One picture with one pair of angles marked, and you have to name it, as well as being able to match definitions. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. In our next one, we're going to look at the measure of angle 3 is 55. Which angles are supplementary to it? How do you know? Go ahead and copy this picture down, and then we'll go through and we'll discuss the question. Alright, so in this problem we're looking at the measure of these angles based on parallel lines. So it says the measure of angle 1 is 100. And we're going to compare angle 1 to each angle on that transversal until we can name every pair of angles. So let's start off with angle 1 and angle 2. And when you look at the picture, they don't look the same size, but they are side by side, so this has to be 80 to make 180 for two side-by-side angles that are supplementary. So you'll name the angles, and then you'll tell the name of the angle that you had to find. So the measure of angle 2 is 80. Now you're going to compare each one to angle 1, so let's go to angle 3 now with angle 1. They are across from each other, touching at a vertex, so that makes them a vertical angle pair. And they look the same size, they both look obtuse, and vertical angles are equal to each other, so therefore the measure of angle 3 is 100. So that's what we're doing. We're comparing each angle to angle 1 on that transversal from 1 to 8. Most of those you can be able to come up with a comparison about what name it is and whether they're equal or they add up to 180.
So I was comparing angle 1 and angle 4.
Mm-hmm.
And angle 4 would be 80 since 1 was 100, correct?
Mm-hmm. And what is the name of those two angles because of where they're located? Correct. So angle 1 and angle 4 are supplementary angles. So angle 4 has to be 80 because it adds with the 100 to make the 180 is correct. Alright, let's look at the next pair. What about 1 and 5? Now let me clean my picture up a little bit over here. Here's 1, here's 5. What kind of angles are angle 1 and angle 5? Based on the corresponding, okay. So we name them corresponding angles, and then after we name them corresponding angles, do they look the same size or do they look different sizes? Same size. So the measure of angle 5 has to be 100 because angle 1 was 100. Is everybody with me? Alright, so then when you look at angle 1 with angle 6, they're alternating. One's inside, one's outside. Are they in the same corresponding position? No.
It's in the corresponding position for angle 2.
Right, it's in the corresponding position with angle 2, but not angle 1. So therefore, there isn't a relationship between 1 and 6. So let me skip that one for just a moment and go to 7. Is there a relationship between 1 and 7?
Yes.
What is that?
Alternate.
Well, let me go back and finish writing what, oh yeah, there's not one there. Angle 1 and angle 7 are alternate exterior, you said? Okay, alternate exterior angles. Do they look equal or do they look supplementary?
Vertical.
No, this one and this one, do they look equal or do they look like they'd add up to 180?
Equal.
Equal, so then the measure of angle 7 is equal to 100. And then last but not least, our job is to measure of angle 1 compared to the measure of angle 8. Name the angle 1 and 8. What? Okay, if you use the word exterior, it has to be either consecutive or same side or alternate. Consecutive, okay. Believe it or not, on a multiple choice test, sometimes they would put that as a choice. Exterior, you said? All right, and that makes the measure of angle 8 what? 80? So the only thing we can't compare to angle 1 is angle 6. There's always one you can't compare. So going back to get angle 6, you would have to choose another angle anywhere in the picture that you could compare to it. For example, you said 2 and 6 earlier. Once I have gotten through the whole thing and realized 6 wouldn't work, I go back and pick up something that will work with, like 2 and 6 I could say are corresponding, and therefore 6 has to be 80. I could also talk about 4 and 6 are alternate interior. I could talk about 6 and 8 are vertical. Or I could talk about one that adds up to 180. I just usually like to pick one that are equal. Now, we have this whole other side over here to look at, and the problem with this is that I have to get at least one comparison from angle 1 to something over on this other side to get one angle going. So switch your perspective and think about the fact that this is the line now being the transversal. Who can I compare angle 1 to? 9. Because angle 1 and angle 9 are what kind?
So, opposite.
Corresponding. Top left and top left, if you're looking from that perspective. Once you get that one angle 9, you may not be able to do every problem with angle 1 all the way through, but I could do 1 and 10. Correct? Because 1 and 10 are same side exterior. And I could do 1 with 11 because they're alternating exterior. I could not do 1 with 12. But it gets complicated dealing with it. So what I tell students to do is once you get this 1 over here, do everything over here based on that 1 you just found. Instead of trying to make it go back to angle 1, because none of these can be compared to angle 1. So it's easier to say angle 1 and angle 9 are corresponding, therefore angle 9 is 100, and then go through and compare all these to angle 9. And it'll work the same way as what we did on this one for 1 through 8. Now, we can save a little bit of time and not have to write all those down, but does everybody see what I'm talking about? Once I get this one's 100, I could go, well, 9 and 10 are supplementary, so that's 80. 9 and 11 are vertical. 9 and 12 are, supplementary, and I could go around and do it again. All right. So I think this is our last slide, yes. So on this last slide, all you have to do is, let's just do this orally. You don't have to write this down. All right, so all we're going to look at is which lines or segments are parallel and justify your answer. And so this is like a backwards perspective. I'm telling you these two angles have a relationship. If we know what it is, then we can say the lines are parallel. Because I don't have the little parallel marks anywhere on here, do I? I don't have those extra little arrows. So the key here is I have to know what these two are named. Because it works the same way. If I say two lines cut by a transversal such that alternate interior angles are congruent, if I have alternate interior angles, I could go back and say the lines are parallel as well. But I need to know the name of these two angles. Which kind of names are those? Might want to turn your head sideways. This is the transversal. Corresponding. Because this is the top right and top right of that position. So therefore, these two are parallel. BE and CG are parallel because they are cut by EG to make those corresponding angles congruent. All right, let's look at this one. Okay, I have my transversal. I have two parallel lines with a lot of extra stuff in the picture I don't need to pay attention to. So what are those two positions? Corresponding. All right, in this one, I got corresponding again. Here's my two parallel lines. Is that corresponding still? So all of these were corresponding, but in different ways with lots of different extra lines. The focus here was, they're not always corresponding, by the way, but this one typically was. But the key here is every one of these, I had to figure out what the parallel lines look like and what's the one line in the picture that was the transversal. If I couldn't find that, then I wouldn't be able to see those corresponding angles, and that's just the key to that. All right, so in tonight's homework, which I don't have out on Canvas yet, but I will be putting it out there. Let me just go ahead and pull it up so I can show it to you. That's not what I meant to do. I meant to make it bigger. So the first set, you're just doing exactly what we did in the notes. You're identifying the pairs of types of angles, and you're telling me which two lines is the transversal and the two that are it's cutting through, just like we did on the notes. In the second part, you have one angle on each picture So you're just going to go through and tell me the name of the pair of angles. In this picture, you're going to want to focus on the fact that the word bank is in a corner for the angle, so that's kind of where the angle is, instead of having numbers on them. But you're doing the same thing. And then here it says to identify all numbered angles. That means that I'd like you to tell how 43 relates to 1, and what 1 would be. How's 43 relate to 2? How's 43 relate to 3, like I was doing with you on the 1 through 8? And then here, you're asked to just find the measure. So you should be able to just look at it and tell if it's the same or if it's the one that makes it 180. And then the last one's a word problem with the same thought. So it's not a lot of math to it, but it'll take you a little bit longer on some of them because you're having to tell the lines and the transversals with it. Some of them you don't. Some of them you're just going to say, oh, angle 1 supplementary to the 43, so angle 1 has to be whatever that is, 180 minus 90. I mean, minus 43, excuse me. So I want them all related to the 43. How does 43 relate to 1, 43 to 2, 43 to 3? And if I find the one angle that don't relate to 43, you leave it to last. And tell me, and you can choose any angle to relate that one to. All right?
So, how many questions is this whole thing again?
18.
13.
But some of them are just look at it and say, is it what number?